Hey everybody, this is Matthew from MiniWarGaming, and it's time for some Tyranid Tactica.
We work so you can play Tyranid Tactica!
A lot of you have asked me to share Tyranid Tactics based on my experiences in doing my beat map bat reps and other battle reports as well. And I have been playing Tyranids for quite a while now. It's the army that I first started in 40k about 3 or 4 years ago. So grab your Tyranids codex and let's start off by taking a look at the units that you should be putting into your army. Right now let's cover the different HQ choices that you have with the Tyranids. There aren't actually very many HQ choices that are very useful, but it kind of makes up for it by the versatility that the HQ choices that you are given can be given as well. The upgrades and the biomorphs and weapon options that they have can really change the function of each of the HQ choices. Now, there are other HQ choices other than the ones you see here, but these are the ones that I've had experience with, so they're the ones I'm going to talk about today. The Hive Tyrant will probably be our most common choice in larger games. He is a little too points heavy for smaller games such as 1,000 points or less. But if you're playing at least 1,500 points, you definitely want to include a Hive Tyrant in your army, unless you're going in all Turbogun list, which we'll talk about in another video. The Hive Tyrant has a lot of versatility with his upgrades. You can make him a very close combat, heavy monster, or you can make him a very good ranged monster based on the weapons that you give him. If you have the extra points in a larger game such as 1,750 points or 2,000, adding 2 or 3 Tyrant Guard really extends his life, as each of these pretty much give him an extra couple of wounds, as they have the shield wall rule, which allows them to absorb pretty much the hits before he does, in most cases. The Hive Tyrant also has a few other special upgrades that allow him to bring in reserves early, which is very useful if you're going for an outflanking Gene Stealer army or a deep striking Spore Pod army. He also has abilities that allows him to grant preferred enemy to nearby units, including himself, which makes Carnifexes or even Trigons and other monstrous creatures quite deadly, or even your regular Hormagaunts and Termagaunts as well. Basically, your Hive Tyrant is the center of a larger army, and you want to base your strategies around what upgrades you give him. The Swarm Lord is also a very good choice, but he's a lot more points heavy, and he is definitely a close combat oriented monster. And you have to remember that even though he is a very powerful monster, he does not have Eternal Warrior, which means he can be insta-killed with force weapons. If you've watched any of my battle reports, you probably realize that the Turbogun is my favorite choice, not just for HQ slots, but also for a troop slot. The Turbogun has a versatility that if you include one group of Termagants as a troop choice, you can also bring a Turbogun as a troop choice. Basically, for every group of Termagants as a troop choice, a Turbogun can be brought as a troop choice as well. This essentially allows you to bring up to 5 Turboguns in your army. 2 in the HQ slot and 3 in troop choices. This is not necessarily a good idea unless you're against certain armies that will be susceptible to dying to Turboguns and Termagants, but we'll talk about that in army composition in another video. While the Turbogun can be upgraded to be really good in close combat, I tend not to put any points into that. Instead, the main use that I have for the Turbogun is 2 things. 1, spawning Termagants, which are then used as a shield to give cover to my more important units, such as Gene Stealers and Hormagaunts. And 2, I give him the Catalyst psychic power, which once per turn in the movement phase, he can give Feel No Pain to any unit within 12 inches. This is incredibly effective. We're going to talk about using the Turboguns a little later, but basically, I always include 1 or 2 of these in my list for no other reason than to just be able to give Feel No Pain to a couple of squads and provide a bit of cover with the extra Termagants. In any scenarios where objectives are being used, the Turbogun is almost a little too powerful, as the Termagants he creates do count as scoring units, so they can take objectives. In a kill point related game, where the number of units you have really matters, Turboguns are not quite as good because every group of Termagants that you create does count as a kill point as well, including the Turbogun himself. And of course, the Turboguns have the great weakness that if they die, any Termagants within 6 inches have a good chance of just dying outright. Lastly, the Tyranid Prime is useful, but he's probably my least favorite out of all the HQ choices that I have used. He's basically a character warrior and has pretty much 1 extra stat line, and everything has a 6 weapon skill instead of 5, 5 strength instead of 4, 5 toughness instead of 4. So he's pretty powerful, The most useful thing that a Tyranid Prime has is the ability to give his weapon skill and ballistic skill to a group of warriors when he joins them. The big disadvantage of all this, of course, is that according to the errata, or the FAQ for the Tyranids, he is not allowed to join a group of warriors in a mycetic spore. So basically, if you want to deep strike your warriors, he can't join them, which I think is an error on Games Workshop's part. When you look at drop pods in the Space Marines, they're able to attach independent characters. Either way, the rule is that they can't join the spore pod, at least unless your house rules allow that. So he's only really useful in an army where the warriors are not deep striking. Only problem with him, and it's the same problem that I have with warriors, is that they're too easy to insta-kill. He has a toughness of 5, so he's a little harder than regular warriors, as you need a strength 10 or a force weapon. But it's just too easy to have strength 10 weapons in Warhammer 40k now, and so it's a prime target to just drop the Vindicator Large Blast or Melta Guns or whatever you need to into a group of warriors and watch them melt away, even though they normally have 3 wounds each. However, if you upgrade the warriors, including the Tyranid Prime, to be close combat monsters, where you give them Scything Talons and Rending Claws, and maybe even Adrenal Glands or Toxin Sacs to give them poisoned or poison weapons or Furious Charge, if they get to close combat, will tear close combat enemies to pieces without hardly any chance of somebody fighting back. They're basically really, really beefy gene stealers. Shooting wise, they can be useful if you give a group of warriors Death Spitters and then attach a Tyranid Prime, because then they're all firing, essentially they're firing heavy bolters, you know, heavy 3, strength 5, all hitting on 3 pluses, which is quite effective. But overall, the Tyranid Prime is my least favorite. The only HQ choice that I really haven't talked about is the Parasite of Mortrex. However, since I have not really used him extensively in games, I can't really give an opinion as to whether he is good or not. According to the stat lines and his points cost, he does look like he'd be useful, but it seems like he'd be more useful in a fun setting, where his ability to spawn Ripper Swarms could be quite fun to watch. However, overall I've never used him, so I can't really comment on him beyond just seeing what his stats are. That's all we'll cover in this video. The next video we'll go over all the different elite choices, which there are actually a lot more to choose from than the HQ choices. Now, because this is a series, I want to be able to answer your questions. So I'm going to be creating a few videos before even seeing your questions, although I know a lot of the initial ones. But if you want to learn more about Tyranids, make sure you post a comment below letting me know exactly what you want me to cover. I'll probably do FAQ videos as well, where I just respond to comments. And also your comments will help me decide what to do in the future. Now, if you want to help spread the word of these Tyranid tactics, make sure you like this video if you're on YouTube. If you're on MiniWarGaming, you can like it or rate it. And of course, subscribe. There's buttons right above so that you can be notified whenever we create new videos related to Warhammer, War Machine, and other wargaming. And of course, if you really like this video, add it to your favorites. It helps spread the word and helps us get more views, which helps, of course, to support MiniWarGaming. So this is Matthew from MiniWarGaming. Stay tuned for the next video. I'll probably have a picture of it right here. And if you're on YouTube, you can click it right here. We'll be covering the elite choices. Otherwise, there will be a link right below, most likely. Or it'll be on the playlist if you're on MiniWarGaming. Somewhere on this page, there will be the next video. So let me just move over to the side so you can see it better. There it is. Click that. Go and watch the next one. Make sure you subscribe. Rate this video. Add it to your favorites. Share it on Facebook. Whatever you can do to help spread the word. This is Matthew from MiniWarGaming. Happy wargaming.